CFO of the Walt Disney Company, Christine McCarthy, the lady who has been in charge of the job cuts, the lady who has been overseeing so much, including the ouster of Bob Chapek, the renewal of Bob Iger as CEO, Christine McCarthy. We've talked about her many times. She is stepping down from the Walt Disney Company, perhaps temporarily, perhaps permanently. However, folks, we do need to tell you that as this news is literally just breaking, we'll be covering that news carefully. Not only will we be covering it carefully, but do not doubt that there could be more news that breaks regarding this situation as the show goes on, and we will be sure to cover it as it happens. I want to explain to you quickly why we will be so careful with this news. Yes, I can understand some jumping for glee at the idea that Christine McCarthy is no more at the Walt Disney Company. I am not here to whistle past the graveyard or to perhaps just simply ignore the things that she has done in the past. She has said some things and done some things that we found frankly reprehensible. However, our understanding is that Christine McCarthy is stepping down from the Walt Disney Company potentially due to health concerns. And we will be walking very gingerly. We never take joy in the suffering of others. We never take happiness from the trials and tribulations of others. We want the best for all. And that includes Christine McCarthy. It includes all of God's babies out there. And so for Christine McCarthy, if she is stepping down indeed for health concerns, which we would assume would therefore be significant, we wish her absolutely the best. We never want to see others suffer. And that's what keeps us being the kind of people that can lay our heads on the pillows at night and take comfort in who we are. All right, let's bring in investigative reporter for thatparkplace.com and producer of the WDW Pro Show Live, Jonas J. Campbell. Jonas,
Howdy.
what is it about Thursdays in the afternoon that causes the news to break like this?
Well, Disney does usually have a strategy of breaking bad news at the same time as good news. You could assume that Indiana Jones 5 is that good news, or at least in their view, the good news, but that would mean they lack perspective.
Now, Jonas, one of the things that we want to be very proactive in is I can foresee a situation where other channels are not in tune with what's going on. Perhaps they see that Christine McCarthy is stepping down and they immediately go into jubilation. And I can understand why they would do that. But if they miss what this could be about and the severity that it could be, I think that it could make everybody look very poorly. And not only that, but it could result in people who are associated with Miss McCarthy suffering as a result of it. And so I hope that our approach will be shared by so many out there. Is that fair to say, Jonas?
I would say that's fair, and it is quite possible that this is a smokescreen and that we've all been fooled. But I will say I would rather be fooled by this than be a person who mocks someone who has cancer. So,
well, you went there. I didn't know if we were going to discuss that in particular.
We don't know what the diagnosis is, but she has had in the past. She's struggled with breast cancer, so. I will say
we're making no assumptions here.
Right. I will say this as a person of faith, I would encourage anyone who prays to pray for the McCarthys at this time.
I think that's a very kind thing to say. And I think that all can surely share that sentiment that we should hold in our hearts, in our prayers, and our thoughts, our good wishes. Christine McCarthy, if she is going through a severe health situation. And I think that's a wise thing for all of us to consider. This out of the Hollywood Reporter again, folks, just breaking not very long ago. This by Alex Weprin, and it says 1:22 p.m. However, I believe that is Pacific time, so literally within just about an hour ago. Christine McCarthy to exit as Disney CFO, Chief Financial Officer, for those of you not familiar with the C-suite terminologies and acronyms. Veteran Disney executive Kevin Lansbury will serve as the company's interim CFO effective July 1st, as McCarthy steps down amid family medical leave. Here we go into the article. Walt Disney Company CFO Christine McCarthy is stepping down from her role to take a family medical leave of absence, the company said Thursday. Veteran Disney executive Kevin Lansbury, executive VP and CFO of Disney Parks, Experiences, and Products. Note, folks, that is under Josh Del Maro for what you will. Make of that however you want to take it. Will serve as interim CFO effective July 1st. The company will now begin an internal and external search for a permanent CFO. Very, very big news there. With McCarthy agreeing to serve as a strategic advisor during her leave, helping to onboard whomever her successor is. Now, let's pause here because what we're trying to do is ascertain the truth as best we can. And we're also trying to walk very carefully through this topic, folks. But if we take note of this paragraph, the important thing to note here is that they're throwing in the interim CFO. They're looking for a permanent replacement, and she's offered to stay on as a strategic advisor. Let's go to the panel now. Folks, I think this probably means that this is sort of a sudden decision. I don't think this is something that they had planned out months in advance based on how this is rolling out. Valiant, you've got some experience watching corporations and how they work. So what are your thoughts on that? Does this seem sudden?
Very, very. And I just happened to be browsing through Apple News earlier the moment it broke, and it lit up because I have a Disney filter in there. And I mean, Reuters, Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, Variety, boom, boom, all within 1 minute of each other dropped this story. So I was like, well, this was obviously an official press release. And as soon as I saw that she was stepping down, I'm like, okay, what is going on? And then I saw the phrase family medical leave. And I was immediately reminded that, and this is public information. Ms. McCarthy has talked about this in interviews before in the past. She's a 2-time survivor of breast cancer. The first time that she was diagnosed was back in, I believe, 2005, months after she started with the Walt Disney Company. It went into remission. She had surgery. She was clear. 15 years later, she was named as the chief financial officer of the Walt Disney Company back in 2015. 5 months after she took that position, she was diagnosed with breast cancer again. And she survived the second time. Now, Miss McCarthy, of course, she's getting close to 70 years old. And with this Family Medical Leave Act designation in this press release, that seems to very strongly suggest that, unfortunately, she may be dealing with that a third time.
I'm looking, Valiant, right now across the blogosphere, checking Google News. There are already some sites out there which are framing this in a way that I think I would hesitate to do so if I were them and fully aware of the situation.
Yes.
I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but there are some sites of dubious nature out there already throwing less than kind statements into the headlines. And I just think in this kind of a time, they should be careful with it.
I would be extremely cautious.
I don't want to be cynical here, but I will point out that there have been large corporations that have taken advantage of legitimate situations in order to take the opportunity. Zack Snyder comes to mind when he was taken off of Justice League. They said that the reason was a horrible incident in his family, but he was pretty much taken off before that happened. And then they seized on the opportunity to say that he was stepping away for that reason.
Right. And we hate to be gullible, right? That would not be a good thing to be either. But when we don't have the facts, when we don't know with specificity what's going on, I think we have to err on the side of caution here. John, you run a major website, big time in pushing the culture, as we've said before. How do you think the right way is to handle this when you don't know exactly what's going on and it could go in such extreme positions, right? It could be nothing. It could be that we're all being snookered here. It could also be that she's in a very critical situation. And how do you handle it?
So I probably wouldn't cover this. Just the nature of our website is that we don't really pay attention to like executive changes like this for the most part. I mean, obviously, if it was like Kathleen Kennedy or something, we might. But a CFO isn't someone we would really cover. But if I was maybe writing for Variety or Deadline or Hollywood Reporter or someone like that, I would probably just be charitable and basically regurgitate what their press release says. If I'm being honest, and that's what it looks like Variety and all of them did based on the actual like press release from the Walt Disney Company on their website. And you just kind of just be as charitable as you can, and I mean, you just go with what they tell you and hope that's the truth at this point. I mean, obviously you can explain like what her track record has been and be honest about that. But you just got to be as honest as you possibly can. And that's something that I'm obviously not going to be able to know or figure out. And you just have to kind of trust them and hope that they're telling you the truth.
Michelle, this comes as we have essentially wrapped up those job reductions at the Walt Disney Company that were supposed to happen, phased out until the summer. We don't know if more are on the way. It would make sense that you would want an interim there, if possible, to take the hit rather than having a permanent person come in and immediately start cutting jobs. What do you make of this situation with the interim CFO coming in? Disney is in not a great place, and this is also someone coming in out of the parks division. I wonder, does that have any kind of indication as to perhaps Josh D'Amaro, the head of Disney Parks, being on the hot track to take over as CFO, or am I reading too much into that?
I mean, that definitely could be the case. I think right now, I mean, unless Valid or someone has more insight than I do, I think there's such little to go on because as you guys have been saying, it was so sudden, which does kind of make me think that it is probably the medical issue, because it doesn't really make sense why it would just be like boom for no reason. I mean, I guess you could say, well, they did it to Chapek, and yes, they did, but I don't know. I think right now I'm just going to lean on it is the medical thing, and as far as the intern, so that's why I can't even really give on that because it very well is legitimately the medical thing, and they just had to put someone over there to be the intern.
Absolutely. Matt, any thoughts on Christine McCarthy and her tenure as the CFO of Disney? She's clearly someone who has done something that I don't know of any other CFO that has ever accomplished. She, of course, was able to take out the CEO of the company, going to the institutional investors, talking with them behind the scenes, and then allegedly threatening to leave her position if the board did not take away Chapek and replace him with Iger. So what do you think is McCarthy's legacy as we say goodbye to her as the CFO?
Well, she's a pretty interesting character. She was kind of like the financial wizard behind Disney. She restructured a lot of their theme parks and, kind of was in charge of leveraging their debt and things like that to basically pay for everything that Disney wanted to do. So under her kind of tenure, Disney saw a really long period of profitability and success. So you got to hand it to her from the financial standpoint. She knows what she was doing. She was kind of behind the fall of Chapek, and immediately after he was replaced, she was kind of at the forefront on the list to succeed him as a CEO. After Iger kind of finishes his run. Her contract, I believe, was up till 2024. So this is like a small, kind of like, so like she was going to basically, I think, retire at the end of her current contract or get promoted. So like this isn't like too big of a like reshuffle because they were probably gearing up to either replace her or see her off anyway. Obviously, I hope that her medical issues are not very serious, if that is indeed why she's stepping down. But I am glad that she's stepping down because Disney, they need to be reorganized. They need new leaders at the head that aren't as destructive, as we should say, culturally.
Yes,
And,
well, that would be a good thing, not to be destructive. Yeah. We've got a quote from CEO Bob Iger, and then Jonas, I think you had one more comment on this article. Christine McCarthy is one of the most admired financial executives in America, and her impact on the Walt Disney Company during 23 years of dedicated service cannot be overstated. Christine has served as a key strategic anchor during a period of great transformation, and that is true. And she and I have discussed her desire to ensure an orderly and successful CFO succession in advance of the company's transition to its next chief executive officer. She is stepping down from her CFO role as she takes family medical leave, but has graciously offered to move into an advisory position to assist her successor in assuming the duties she has so expertly handled these many years. Here is the response from Miss McCarthy. I am immensely grateful for the opportunity Bob provided to me to serve as CFO of this iconic company and am proud of the work my talented team has done to position Disney to capitalize on the business possibilities that lie ahead. Although I am leaving the CFO role, I look forward to helping with the transition and will always be rooting for the success of my extended Disney family, who have shown time and again that determination, teamwork, and the pursuit of excellence are an unstoppable combination. Jonas, you had a comment that you wanted to make about this.
Yes. Well, it was about the very end of the article, actually. Kevin Lansbury, I'm sure he's no relation to the other.
You're talking about the last paragraph?
Yes. Lansbury.
Would you like me to read it so the audience knows what we're discussing here?
No, it's fine. They can see it, but we'll pretty much cover it here. He's an Orlando person, and he will be moving to Burbank for this. Doesn't sound like they're in a rush to try to end this CFO search anytime soon. He has a bump of a $1 million base salary and $1 million annual target bonus with a $3 million in long-term incentive plan. It's very generous and very quick. I'd just say that doesn't sound like they're motivated to change chairs again very quickly, in my opinion.
Lots of cost savings going on there. They cut 7,000 employees.
So yeah, they've got a little extra cash because of that.
Well, also to point out that Nelson Peltz, one of the things that he's come after them for is executive compensation. So
it's sure to make him happy.